In our last video, we're all Pacific Northwest people, and so we talked a lot about Portland and Seattle. And we got a challenge from someone in the comments to, diversify our answers. Not everyone loves the gray, overcast days and rain like we all do. And it was a good reminder to, consider that, while some people absolutely hate humidity and some people absolutely hate the really intense snowy winters, some people don't like to have overcast days for 6 months out of the year. So this is our challenge for today. The title is Which Part of the Midwest to Move to? I'm not trying to start a rivalry, but wanted some local opinions on how to pick which part of the Midwest works for me. There's obviously the Great Lakes states and the plains, and I'm sure obvious differences between those two regions alone. I've driven through Iowa, Nebraska, and lower Illinois and thought it was beautiful. I have not had a chance to visit more north, but I want to. I would like a little bit of land one day, not like a homestead, but just a bigger backyard and a little garden, not really into living downtown. At the same time, I have a parent who is getting older, and so I would like to be near a population center for specialist doctors and trips into a city. I'm also single and would like to meet someone, and living too far out would make that difficult. I work in accounting and am politically independent, having lived in very different regions of the United States. I've lived in snowy climates before, so I'm also prepared for that. Can someone give some good input on how to best decide which part of the Midwest is the right fit for me? Thank you. Now, the reason why I had something to say about this is because they mention that they want to have a good amount of land, not necessarily for like a farm or homesteading, but they would like to have a good amount of land. But they also want to be near a population center. And they also mention that they're, politically independent. And the immediate thing that popped into my head, and that they would like affordability. The thing that immediately popped into my head was someone that I know who moved from Portland to Indiana because they wanted to have a nice plot of land, but still wanted to be close enough to a population center without it being really expensive. And I've only been to Indiana once, but when I went, it was really easy to go from the center of Indianapolis to places with a lot more land available. And then you didn't even have to go that far out to get pretty rural, even like seeing farms and things like that. And of course, it was also my first time seeing fireflies, so that was a good experience. And there are a few different areas in Indiana that are close to population centers. You could be close to Indianapolis, but you could also be close to Cincinnati. You could be close to Louisville. You could be close to Chicago. So I don't know a lot of the suburban areas around those places, but I know that that's like a possibility. So I was curious if Nick, because I believe you said that you were from Indiana, if you had any thoughts about if that would be a good choice for them, and if so, what places might be good for them.
Indiana could be a good choice. The primary issues I see with choosing a place in the Midwest is, historically, you want to find a place that's going to have a decent economy because there's a lot of relatively depressed places, and that's less of an issue these days, of course, especially as you get closer to the Indies and the Cincies of the world. But it's generally that, and its proximity to the things that you like to do, and or how much you dislike snow is a really common factor for everybody I grew up around in Indiana. But the benefit is, like you mentioned, Indiana, you can get out of the city really quickly into the sticks. It's extremely affordable. If you're an accounting, professional, then chances are your options are going to be good no matter where you are. So as long as there's, a decently healthy economy, you should be in good shape, honestly. And for a place like Indiana, that could be a college town. It could be, it's the same situation all over the Midwest. You know, you find a smaller, quaint college town, and you're going to find an outsized number of opportunities there. Probably also, for the most part, at a more affordable rate than it would be to say just set your sights on Indy or, you know, I don't know. Nobody's thinking about Chicago probably when it comes to affordability, but I would say that's a great place to choose. You know, if you love the area and you're not, um, I don't know, if you're into the flat nature of things and you can accomplish everything you want to accomplish there, and you're not like pining for the beach or the mountains or the forest, it's not a bad place to be. Or if you're pining for all of those things, then hey, maybe being in, you know, in the heartland of the country is not a bad choice either. So, you know, those rules I stated basically, you know, basically looking for a place with a decent economy, that applies to anywhere in the Midwest. So really just find your flavor of what you like, and you're going to find a lot of similar sort of feels when you visit places. I think anyway. So I would second that Indiana is not a terrible place to look around. Although I would say, you know, for my personal interests, it's easier for me to be excited about a place with more outdoorsy stuff. So I would either advocate for looking a little north. Don't be turned off by the fact that it's colder than hell in Wisconsin. Milwaukee, for what it's worth, I think is a really underrated town. It's another one of those Indianapolis style places where you can get out of the city relatively quickly. It's had some, you know, some depressed times in the last couple hundred years, just like a lot of places, but that's where you're going to find the most opportunity to buy at the most affordable rates and really get the most bang for your buck. So, you know, even if you hear something bad about some Midwest city, you just really kind of have to check it out because there are some real gems in there.
Totally. I'm really glad we got Nick on the on our team for this one because he knows the Midwest really well. There's a lot of things that are unknown about this writer of the Post that are sort of leave us up in the air. I don't know what kind of climate he likes. He said he's been to these places and they're just really lovely and beautiful, is what he said. And yeah, be sure you go go to all go during the winter time, go during the summertime, the middle of summer. The climate you end up with might not be the climate you want. And one of the things I've realized lately is that every place in the US has some beautiful days, some beautiful months out of the year. But basically, you want to find the place that has the most beautiful weather, the kind of weather you like during the most of the year. And there's beautiful days to be had in the Midwest, and there's a lot of variability. There's, you know, the different places, the Great Lakes versus the plains, the kind of climate you're getting. So be sure to visit that. The other thing is you probably want to live near a larger population center. You spoke about your folks, and you want to um, be able to have the resources of a metro area. Nick mentioned college towns. Great idea, because college towns, you can have the infrastructure of a much larger place, but it's sort of downsized, miniaturized into a college town, like a really great medical hospital or other resources that you might find and that might be just right for you. And as far as you said, you maybe meet someone. There's a lot of vibrancy, there's a lot of activity, there's a lot going on in a college town that you wouldn't get sometimes even in larger places. But the Midwest is great, and affordability is going to be great. And you're going to, you said a bigger backyard and garden, probably not too much of a problem in the Midwest anywhere if you just find the right place. It's not like you're going to San Francisco or New York City, New York metro area, and try and find a place with a bigger backyard. Those places, like people in New York City, they're moving to the Hudson River Valley, they're moving out to Allentown, Pennsylvania, Scranton, to find their little house with a picket fence and a yard for the kids. So you're not going to have that problem in the Midwest. And you didn't mention affordability. Affordability is a big win all the way around in the Midwest. And oh, here's what I'm going to say. Look for places, check the population. Go to bestplaces.net. Look for the population trends. You want to find a place that's growing. You don't want to find a place that's been stagnant, and you don't want to find a place that's declining in population. You want to find a place that's growing, that has some vibrancy, that you want to get in on the ground floor and grow with the city. Sounds like you're a young person. You got a lot of time ahead of you, and this is a great place to put down some roots and build a great life for yourself.
So I have a comment on what you were saying, Bert. I have family that moved from California to the Midwest, and specifically they moved to Kansas City, Kansas, in Leawood, which so there's Kansas City, Missouri, and Kansas City, Kansas. That area is really growing strong. There's a lot of companies moving there. There's has amusement parks. There's a lot of lakes to go boating. The affordability in Kansas City is very similar to the West Coast in some spots, but the further out you get from the circle, the more affordable it gets. So like if you were to move to like Stillwater, Kansas, then you can get a lot of land. It's not that far from Kansas City. And there's a lot of building, a lot of growth in that area. So I would just put a plug in for Kansas City, Kansas, not Missouri, because the Missouri side is very depressed. And I don't know the reasons for that, but I would stay on the Kansas side.
Great. Cool.
Yeah, they mentioned the north, kind of, that they haven't driven through the north, but they said they maybe want to check it out. They talked about being through the Midwest. Now, obviously, I think they mentioned kind of that the north isn't really considered the Midwest, so people will probably catch you as being sticklers on that. Bert mentioned college towns as being good for diversity as far as meeting someone, activities, and also resources for your parents as far as medical stuff. That's true. So you could look at places like Lansing, Ann Arbor in Michigan. Michigan's really pretty. And those are two college towns in Michigan. Also, there's Madison in Wisconsin for a college town. So those three places might be places that you want to check out as far as those places in the north, Great Lakes region. And I would take a drive through before you settle on the Midwest. Sounds like you kind of have picked the Midwest. And I don't know how you picked the Midwest, but if you pick the Midwest as the place you want to check out, that sounds like a cool place to do it. Definitely affordable. Great heartland of America. But I would take a drive through the north because it does have great beauty. And I do know people that have lived in both Michigan and Wisconsin. It is a great way to get the outdoors at a more affordable price than either of the coasts. So I would check that out before you make your firm decision as far as the Midwest.
Yeah, here's something else. We haven't talked about climate risk and the climate change, whatever you want to call it. But basically, the Midwest area has been identified as one of the maybe long-term safest places for climate change. You have the incredible body of the Great Lakes for fresh water. And as far as the sort of the freedom from earthquakes and other tornadoes. Anyway, they are, when you look at the entire risks in aggregate, the parts of the Midwest that they have identified, scientists, as some of the safest places in the U.S. from the effects of climate change. So, something to think about.
All right, thank you. I would be very curious to see if this poster adds some more comments. I did see that they said a couple of things. They did mention tornadoes. They didn't really mention a whole lot about how they felt about tornadoes. But they were kind of curious about, like, how often do tornadoes happen in this area?
You're,
And
you're gonna
then,
get some. You're definitely gonna get some.
Yeah.
oh
But
yeah, I
I,
remember when my friend who moved to Indiana, that like one day we were like talking, we were video chatting, and then all of a sudden, like, ooh, and I was like, wait, what is that?
good old tornado sirens.
That's good.
yeah.
hmm
It's been a minute
Yeah.
since I've heard those.
Nick's our resident expert on tornadoes and stuff like. Or he's our climate expert
Yeah.
as a whole.
Mhm.
So, but
Totally.
tornadoes too.
We recently did a look at tornadoes at Best Places, and a lot of the major tornadoes are moving. We traditionally, you think the Midwest is Tornado Alley, but they're moving more south and east as far as the major tornadoes. So you want to talk about that briefly, Nick? Because we're
Oh yeah, that's
Yeah.
totally a factor. There's some debate about whether it's like a new phenomenon or whether it's just kind of new recognition of an existing phenomenon. Because for as long as I've grown up, Indiana's kind of always been considered sort of a secondary tornado alley. They call it like kind of Hoosier Alley, and now they have Dixie Alley down in Mississippi and Alabama. Lived there as well and experienced both those, tornado alleys, and I mean, they're legit. It's, these days it's a real problem in those areas. And everybody's just a lot more aware of it, I think, honestly. And yeah, lately it's been a lot of rather tornadic weather out there. I look at places like Memphis and Nashville and can't help but sometimes think perhaps they're sitting ducks along the lines of like a Dallas in terms of the risk there. But thankfully tornadoes are relatively acute, and you got to get pretty unlucky to get hit by one of those. So enjoy the severe weather as much as you can or want. If you live in Tennessee, Kentucky, you probably aren't going to have to pay for your roof too much because you can just start making insurance claims because of all the bad weather you get. So if you choose that place, keep that in mind. But yeah, it's going to be a part of your future if you choose the Midwest for sure. So I hope you like severe weather.
So number 2, we have city suggestions. And this one says, I'm looking for some input on where to move next. I'm open to different cities in the US, and I'd love to hear your recommendations. And now this is ironic because I totally came up with like what my answer was earlier before I read this, but it says, for reference, I'm a 29-year-old single female hairstylist currently in Indiana. So this time
That's
it's going
good.
to accidentally be Indiana all over.
That's cool. That's cool. It kind of there's a theme there. And it kind of bookends. Yeah.
Exactly.
But that person kind of cool. That person might end up in Indiana. This one's making their egress from Indiana, so that's cool.
Yeah. Maybe they could give each other advice.
Yeah, they can give each other a high five on the way as they meet.
Exactly.
Here's what I'm looking
We should have them shoot a video getting the coffee, sitting in the coffee shop, and Best Places sponsored.
Oh,
Coffee's
yeah.
on us.
There you go.
Shoot the
Good
video.
Here's what I'm looking for in a city: affordable, reasonable cost of living, laid back, friendly, progressive vibe. I prefer warmer or at least milder weather. I'm not loving the idea of a brutal winter. I would love to be near a body of water, like an ocean or a lake, but I definitely just love being outdoors in general. Walkability is a big plus, although I would have a car. A sense of local culture and events like concerts, sports games, festivals, etc., and a decent social and dating scene. While this person is, currently in the Midwest and maybe has, an interest in staying in the Midwest, they also said, I would like airport access if you suggest places that are not in the Midwest. So they're definitely open to hearing other options. They say they've considered New Orleans. They love the culture, food, and size of the city. The atmosphere is unmatched to anywhere else I've visited. Pensacola, beach town, not overwhelmingly big, although there's not a whole lot to do besides the beach. And Chicago, still closest to family. So that's probably the Midwest thing. There's lake access and plenty to do. If you live somewhere that you think would check most of these boxes. I'd appreciate hearing why it works for you. Thanks in advance. One thing I immediately noticed was that they mentioned that they were considering Chicago, but they also mentioned that they really don't love the idea of brutal winters. So I think they should probably take that one out.
Yep. Agree.
Yep.
Although you have to
Okay.
weigh the being close to family portion of that. So, I mean, you could have them move south of Chicago somewhere in the Midwest and still be able to drive to family. That's another option.
Yeah. And I think those are some things to definitely consider. Is like, where are places that are maybe still close to the Midwest or maybe within the Midwest, but don't have those same brutal winters that
Yeah.
they're looking to
One
avoid.
place I thought of right away from that description is Lake of the Ozarks in Missouri. That's a really cool place. You're right on a lake. It's still very affordable there, and you could potentially drive to Chicago. It's a long drive, but the winters are a lot better, and the vibe is very very nice. Branson is also down there, which
Yep.
there's a lot to do in Branson. It's a touristy town. So just some thoughts.
I'd have to second that there, Al. I was actually just thinking like if you can open up your mind away from just oceans, you know, there's a lot of water that you can find really I don't know, just as nice, honestly. I mean, I was going to say some place like Tennessee could be a really decent fit being in the mid South.
Right.
I know we were talking about tornadoes and things on an earlier conversation in Tennessee, but you're giving up, you know, the extreme winter for a much more palatable and significantly shorter winter, you know, in the mid South, like in Arkansas, Tennessee, someplace like that. And there's quite a lot of lakes. The TVA, the Tennessee Valley Authority, it's kind of a relatively famous place with regard to large lakes, and some of them are quite beautiful and very nice if you're into that sort of lifestyle and culture. So I couldn't agree more. That's not a bad way to go if you're willing to move off the ocean and into a different body of water. And if you can find that good enough, that's probably where you're going to find balance between affordability and accessibility to Indiana, Chicago, wherever you're trying to get back home to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know, well, when you read this, the post, the writer said affordable and near a large body of water, or near a body of water would be a major plus. That's a that's often a problem. You get near the seashore and either coast or whatever, it is usually pretty expensive. You know, Florida, Texas, not so much. But yeah, it's going to be expensive. But Al, great idea going to the Ozarks. I really like the Ozark region. You're talking Arkansas, and it's much cooler there. Well, I wouldn't say much cooler, but it is a lot better there. You get some altitude. You're away from the Gulf of Mexico. That's nice. The Bentonville area is a really growing very quickly, has a very dynamic place. Um, Lots of interesting stuff happening there. I really liked it. Took a long car trip through the deep South and really opened my eyes to all the possibilities that were there. So, in fact, anybody listening, uh, I would definitely take a 2, 3 week, a month long car trip through the deep south and see a part of the United States that's way overlooked. Stay away from the big cities and see how just another part of the U.S. lives and who they are, get to know them, get to know the culture. It's a wonderful trip, an investigation, and you know, maybe we don't all have the money to go to Europe or Japan or wherever, but this is a great opportunity. Try the Deep South.
The Europe
I
of
guess that's,
America.
yeah.
Yeah. Just another thing to think about as well, that if you go to places like Florida or California on those coasts, owning property is very difficult now because a lot of the insurance companies are not insuring homes. And that's really been a sticking point for a lot of people and moving to these opposite sides of the country. And so you're going to find a lot more affordability in the middle of the United States somewhere. And there's kind of a migration of people moving into the Midwest and the middle of the United States because we're, with the climate change and Florida is losing a lot of their beaches, and California, and down in Texas, there's a lot of issues there with rising sea levels.
Yeah, I think the kind of the bloom is off the rose. People, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, people were saying Texas, Florida, yeah, Miami, Austin, and those places are losing population now. People have gone there and they said, Ah, I would like to be outside more than 6 months a year. Uh, I'm getting slammed on insurance costs, and the climate risk is not good. And now they've said, okay, we've been there, tried it, and we're going back to where we came from or looking for somewhere else. And you went ahead and said progressive vibe.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to say that whenever you get to a place that has more population, usually the larger the city, the more of a progressive vibe you're going to get. You're going to get more of a liberal attitude and find friends that maybe are like-minded. So wherever there's a group of people getting together, you're going to find your tribe, no matter where you are. And if you look at voting patterns and you look at the cities, they're all voting more liberal, more progressive. And so check out the cities and see what kind of people live there. And you'll probably find a group of people that suit you really well.
Yeah, I'm glad that you mentioned that because as I was kind of going through this person's, kind of qualifications for the place that they're looking for, I was noticing like, oh, well, I might recommend this place because, it's more progressive and, there's, there's lots of water, but it's maybe not as affordable. And, thinking about other places and then thinking like, but that place is maybe not as progressive or maybe not as walkable or something like that. But yeah, I definitely wanted to mention that like even if you're in a red or purple state, there are always going to be communities that you will find that are more progressive in a big city or in a college town or something like that. Where there are more people and there's more diversity and stuff like that.
And I just want to circle back to what our team really loves, and that's the idea when I see that the person says sense of local culture, concert, sports, games, festivals, decent social dating scene, that says to me, college towns. No matter where you are, college towns offer a great culture and you get so much bang for your buck. Oh, here's another secret. State capitals. State capitals are always they have a very even economy, and that's really great. You don't want to go to a place that's a crazy, on fire, boom economy, and you don't want to go to a place that's really depressed. State capitals are usually pretty good places. They can be a little on the boring side, but they are really stable, and they have just year in and year out, you got to have state government. So those are pretty good places. You can have a smaller population in a state capital, and it'll be more stable and sort of livable than other places around that region. But college towns, look for college towns. They rock. There's so much happening there. You get way above extra bang for your buck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. These are cool. Like general hacks, rules of thumbs that we've all learned as we've done all this research over time. So it's kind of like when you're on like a trail and you're lost and you don't know what to do. Like look, they're like North Star, Pole Stars, rules of thumb. Um, you know, like everyone's saying, like college towns, big cities, stuff like that. That's gonna, aside from specific places, there's just general rules of thumb you can follow and tricks and hacks that you can find when you're not sure of specifically where to go. Just look for those things that people were mentioning there.
Yeah,
So,
if I'm lost, I get out of the car and I look for the moss on the north side of the tree, and I know just where I am. Nick, is that actually a real thing? I mean, moss on the north side of the tree, does that actually work?
I mean, sort of, yes and no. I mean, it works because you're, on the north side of anything, it's going to be darker and there's going to be more things growing. But like moss obviously can grow on all. I mean, we all know in the Pacific Northwest, moss grows on everything, not just the north side of the tree. So,
yeah.
but
Okay, well, I'm
generally,
gonna
that's
stick.
kind of there's real, stuff behind that.
Is
Okay,
it
well, I'm gonna
different
stick
if
with
you're in
GPS.
Australia?
What's that?
Is it different if you're on Australia?
Right.
Well, it would be, yes,
Whoa.
because you'd be looking for the south side of the tree at that point.
That's
So
really,
to
yeah,
all our
all the
Australian viewers,
Yeah.
all the
heads up on
progressives
that.
are in the outback. and it's not college. All the college towns are really
I mean,
conservative, and
yeah, there's
so
not as
everything's backwards if you're in Australia. So just disregard
right.
this. Watch this video backwards, and et cetera, et cetera. Just everything.
Not quite as many trees in Australia either as up here.
Oh yeah,
So
totally different. Yeah.
yeah.
But this is not. We'll do a Best Places Australia version later.
Sure.
That's coming next.
Perfect. One last thing that I wanted to also say, and someone else already kind of helped advised this person, but my dad is a barber. And so when this person said that, I think that they said that they do like cosmetology or hair, work in a hair salon or something they said hairstylist. You do also have to think about licenses in different states because those are different. The states control the laws. So my dad has moved a lot of times and has a barber license in, I think, 5 different states at least, maybe even more than that. And each one, he's, had to do different things. Some were super easy. Montana, probably the easiest one. I think he said California might have been the most difficult one because he had to go back to barbering school. Yeah, it does track. Because he went to an Aveda Institute in Washington, but then when we went to California, he had to go back to school again.
Wow. Yeah. Interesting.
Montana used to have to own a pair of scissors.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yep.
But I was going to say, so Sophia told me we were doing this today, and I challenged all of us not to think of Pacific Northwest places in Portland and stuff like that. So, and when you thought of laid back, near the water, friendly, progressive vibe, I thought of Burlington, Vermont, which I've been to several times, but then you said milder, warmer weather, so that's not going to get it. But I do like Burlington, Vermont. So if anyone's watching this and they don't mind cold weather, that's a really cool town. College town, again, UVM's there, super chill, great music comes there. I saw Bob Dylan there once, and right on Lake Champlain. So beautiful outdoor stuff to do, really cool, chill vibe, great place. And then I was also going to say, I know, Bert, you like this town, and I have a longtime friend who lives there, Asheville, North Carolina. Chill, laid back vibe. And it's a little farther from Chi-Town. So, but that same friend actually does has family in Chicago and visits them often. So it's not too far. But Asheville's a cool.
Asheville's expensive. So FYI.
Most of Western North Carolina has gotten pretty expensive these days.
Okay, gotcha.
You might have better luck looking at like Knoxville or something like that, or if you want to stick with the mountain sort of college town thing, like a Blacksburg, Virginia, where Virginia Tech is.
I like that. That's
places like that could be good options if Western North Carolina is a little too pricey, which probably is.
Yeah, that's a good point. One thing we
Yeah.
like to do at Best Places was we like to take places that are popular, like Asheville and stuff like that, and then find alternatives, more affordable alternatives to those places. Because where there's a good place that's popular and trendy and stuff like that, there's always an alternative that offers those same um, amenities and advantages, but more affordable.
Yeah.
So.
Yep.
Cool.
All right. And now we're moving on to the hate letter for Seattle, which it's not as much of a question. I just kind of thought it would be funny, and you can provide commentary as I read this if you like.
Yep.
All right. So someone said, PSA, please read this before you consider moving to Seattle. This sub has been awesome and given me great advice in the past, so I feel like I should give back in some way. In 2024, I moved to Seattle for work in the midst of a still horrible job market. The 1.5 years I've lived here since then have been an exercise in utter misery. Before I dive into the negatives, let me mention that Seattle is rightly praised for providing great access to nature, outdoor activities, and the absence of an income tax, which is great on your wallet. And then there's the other stuff. Weather, dull, abysmal grayness for 10 months out of the year. It doesn't snow here and it's not humid like Austin or Phoenix, but the incessant, gloomy, and overcast days inevitably take a toll on your mental health. Overabundance of tech. Visit any meetup or social group, and it's a safe bet that 80% of them will be tech bros. Every conversation with these tech bros will invariably dissolve into a pissing contest about who makes the most money, who has the best RSUs, the highest signing bonus, etc. The lack of social etiquette and personal hygiene with these people is real. Oof, I took that one to heart. Not the personal hygiene, just being a tech bro. Social scene. People seem to enjoy being lonely here. Often you'll go to meetups, meet someone great, hit it off, exchange numbers, and then that's it. Radio silence. No more hangouts or even messages. Try to mention this to a Seattleite and you'll instantly be gaslit with, oh, it's not Seattle, it's you. Cost of living. Seattle rivals places like NYC and San Francisco in terms of cost of living while providing none of the positives like the San Francisco weather or the New York City culture and nightlife. It also rivals them in terms of homelessness, crime, and traffic problems. I'm fully expecting Seattleites to attack me for saying these things and reject this as just my opinion. And to that end, here's some more information. They post a few Seattle Times and Business Insider articles where people talk about their experiences not being happy living in Seattle. And then whoever is considering moving here, take all of the above into account. Are the nature and outdoor activities enough to counterbalance all of the other aspects of Seattle? You might not pay a state tax here, but you will pay a tax on your social life and mental health. So yeah, I wanted to see if you had anything else to say. I know for me, when I first moved to Portland, like even though I had been to Portland so many times, I just was not prepared for what it would be like to be constantly rejected in terms of employment, like even at grocery stores and movie theaters, places that I thought I was a shoo-in for because I'd worked in restaurants and I had a film degree. So I thought, oh, you know, this will be fine. It'll be easy. But it was not easy because you really have to work hard for the first couple years when you move somewhere to really build that community, build that network. Because it's not just about your resume, but it's also about, you know, meeting people and getting to know people in the industry. I think no matter where you go, it's going to be hard, but I'm sure it's harder in some places than others.
I think that sort of hits home for me because when we first moved to Portland in like 2011, 2012, one of those years, it was you know, still a few years right after the financial crisis of 2008. And so it was like not a great time to be looking for work. And my wife was one of 300 applicants at a coffee shop, probably most of which had college degrees just like she did. And she didn't even get an interview. And it's like, this is basically the state of affairs. And I took that to actually mean like, I mean, you definitely have to build your own, you know, network, and you have to just do that professionally anyway. But I really took that to mean that we were in a place where there's just a lot of competition for those types of good jobs. And I honestly didn't have much perspective because we were coming from, you know, a small college town just trying to launch. And I definitely feel the freeze that they like to call it. And yeah, the rejection thing can be something for sure. But I don't know. I don't think that's necessarily a Northwestern thing. I think that's just anywhere you're not culturally necessarily used to is going to be a little bit different and a little bit different experience. I mean, like I could be rejected 500 times for a job, or I could be looking for work and not have jobs to apply to. And like where I lived in Indiana, you know, like I don't know, there's like levels to the misery, I guess. But I really honestly took that to mostly be just like straight up professional competition. But that the freeze is real. I mean, you know, there's a certain level of flakiness that just doesn't quite exist in most Midwesterners that I'm used to, which is probably why, even though we've lived in the Northwest for a long, long time now, most of my friends are still Midwesterners. You just grab, we meet with Midwesterners, and it's like we just gravitate to them for, you know, that reason. It's all it takes is, you know, oh my gosh, you're from the Midwest. Oh, I'm from the Midwest, and that's all it takes with that type of people. But yeah, with Northwesterners, I felt a little of that freeze for sure.
Hey, you know, the thought occurs to me, we're talking gloom, we're talking kind of people that are comfortable with themselves and don't feel the need to like, you know,
Yeah.
hang out, join, be friendly, whatever, just sort of, could you say the Northwest is like the Scandinavia of America or something like that?
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and we were talking about Swedes and Norwegians here. I don't know how things are in um, Minneapolis, which has a huge population, percentage of the population from immigrating from Scandinavia.
Hmm.
But I don't know. Now, Al, your family, don't you have like Danish, I think,
Yeah.
or something?
Yeah, it's a real thing. And the Northwest does have that vibe. I'm just telling you that because, you know, if I go down to a warmer climate like Arizona or Southern California or you know, even the Midwest, it's different. Like people will start a conversation and talk about personal things, and it's not a big deal. Where in the Northwest, and we're just talking about generally speaking, right? People don't tend to open up. They don't tend to want to share things as much. Does anyone else feel that way? Or
Well, I grew up in a town in Alaska called Little Norway. I mean, it was not
mm,
actually called that, but that's what we
yeah,
called it. It's Petersburg, Alaska, and it was Little Norway. It was a Norwegian
hmm,
fishing village. And so, yeah, we definitely have a lot of the like Norwegian cultural things.
hmm,
Um, However, what's also interesting is because we were on this little tiny island, in order to keep from getting island fever and kind of like getting just like stir crazy, we would leave for like 2, 3 months at a time whenever we would go on vacation. And so I ended up traveling all over the world as a kid and, you know, learning a lot of different languages. So I ended up growing up around a lot of different cultures, um, and am like pretty comfortable with, you know, starting up conversations with people in multiple different languages now because of that. And so it's
right,
like really interesting how like, you know, culturally I've had this like mix of, you know, being, you know, growing up and like also like having in Midwestern stoicism, like you know, my dad's side of the family, they're very like quiet, reserved people. They're from, you know, like North Dakota. Um, But then I also have my mom's side of the family. They're like Texan and North Carolinian and Californian, and they're like really loud and talk a lot. And so it's like really interesting. Like I can kind of like go between the two, which is good.
Yeah. Yeah.
That,
I think
that must be interesting family gatherings. You have one side of the family, it's just like sitting there waiting for their coffee or whatever. The other one is like, you
Yeah,
Jenga, whatever you're gonna do, whatever you're gonna do.
it is
Cornhole,
pretty.
yeah.
It's
And
pretty
talking to people
interesting.
though, a lot of couples are very different. Like like the adage opposites attract is very true. Like my wife, her ancestry is Sicilian. So her grandfather migrated from Sicily, and they're very like talkative and in your face type of people. And I'm very the opposite, like very reserved. I'm not going to say a lot if I don't have anything to say. And so I think, your parents' experience is very common from what I've seen and what I've talked to a lot of other people.
Mhm.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm just gonna say that um, let's say moved around all over as a kid. My dad was in the Navy, spent some time growing up in Key West, Florida, Oslo, Norway, born in Brooklyn, New York, spent time in Carmel Valley, California, Kodiak, Alaska, and ended up in Corvallis, Oregon. And I like I don't think Portland's too gray for me. It's nice. I get good work done. Wintertime comes, it gets cloudy. I have no need to go out and get drizzled on. And we don't have hard rain here. We have drizzle. So real Northwesterners don't use umbrellas. They have a fleece that you wear inside and outside. It's mild. It's a mild climate, and I I like it. In fact, there was one year recently where it didn't. It was dry. Normally the rain starts, so we had the most perfect summers in the United States, maybe in the world. I don't know. They're beautiful summers, 2 or 3 months long, and then the rain starts drizzling and it's overcast and you get really tired of it by February. But one year it was dry all through October, and then I've talked to people and they say, this is getting weird. I'm not used to having beautiful fall weather, and the rain has not come yet. People were, I wouldn't say they're freaking out, but it was bothering them that the rains had not started yet. And the weather was just too nice for too long. Every place has its problems and its issues. No place is perfect. In fact, I just want to say that talking about Tolstoy, had Anna Karenina, at the beginning of Anna Karenina, he summed up beautifully all about places to live. He said, every family, um, every, every happy family is the same. Every happy family is unhappy in its own way. And I thought that's beautiful. Every great place to live ticks all the boxes. There are things that we need to have a great place to live. And every place that is not so great is broken in its own way. And there really is no perfect place. Every perfect place has been discovered and is really unaffordable. So that's a big negative. But basically, you can say something negative about every place in the US, and if it doesn't fit with you, it's hell because you're not happy living there. Maybe you're unhappy with the people, maybe you're unhappy with the climate or the economy or the affordability or whatever. It's not for you. But there are places that are maybe more for you. And there are other that same place that's hell for you could be wonderful for someone else. The natural resources of Seattle or Portland or Bend or Idaho or whatever can be ideal for someone else. So this is one person's opinion, totally valid. Get what the person's saying, but there are other people that just love that. So
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And Yeah, I definitely wanted to make sure that we also like validate this person and, you know, other people who've had the same experience because yeah, like the problems that you're talking about are real. You're not imagining them.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, it's some people like it and some people don't like it. And so I really hope
Yeah.
that you're able
Yeah.
to find the place that is right for you and has the things that you do want. And while there are some things that might be difficult regardless of where you go, just like going somewhere new and having to, you know, build your community up from scratch and find a new job, that's going to be difficult. But some things, if you find a place that's a match for you, it will be easier for you to do that, to build that community and to find those jobs because it will just make sense for you and the culture there will just make sense to you. And so I hope that you either have found your best place or that if you haven't yet, you know, we're here to help you.
Yeah.
Let the healing
Yeah.
begin.
Exactly. All right. So here's our last Reddit question of the day. Not NYC. I am from the South, a small city. I really wanted to move because of politics, and I just wanted something much different than what I had. I got it by moving to New York City. I've created a nice life for myself here. After almost a decade, I have so many friends, an apartment to myself that I love, neighbors that I know, and a real community. That said, the cost of living and my wages are not keeping up. I'm a therapist. While I plan to go to private practice to actually make money, I feel like I am over New York City. The hustle culture and the capitalistic attitudes of enough is never enough and consumerism culture has me really turned off and burnt out on NYC. I plan to save and work remote, hoping to move to a small beach town, probably on the East Coast because of affordability. Is this a silly plan? I know New York City will be hard to break up with, but some of the culture here I'm just over.
Well, I mean, if you can't afford it, that's the start and the end of it, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, what are you going to do? I think that totally makes sense to me. I mean, if you're from a smaller town in the South, that would be about as stark a contrast you could get staying in the United States, perhaps going to New York City. Um, I don't think that plan is bad at all. If you can work remotely and do your thing and, you know, find something that balances the, you know, the Southern culture or the speed of life with, you know, the opportunities that NYC has somewhere in the middle, that could be great. And for what it's worth, we know somebody that has been affiliated with our team working with us who made a similar move out of New York City and down to the Carolinas and seems to really love the fact that they did that. And so yeah, that's a great idea, honestly.
Yeah. I'm curious if there are any suggestions where maybe they could, you know, see their friends more easily in New York City, but still just like be completely out of the area.
Well, I mean, the New York speed thing is going to be an East Coast pace thing, really. You know, I mean, that mentality of hustle, bustle, go, 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 that goes all the way through Washington, D.C. I feel like it kind of peters out once you leave the megalopolis. So
Mm-hmm.
if you're looking for something a little slower, you maybe don't want to be on the I-95 corridor, although you might want to be close to it. So maybe you find a nice place in Virginia or North Carolina or someplace. I'm thinking about someplace maybe close to DC. That way you can easily jump on, you know, public transit and easily get up to New York City in a couple of hours. No problem whatsoever. You won't be helped in the price department, but if you're close but not in the madness of the DC area, that could serve a lot of needs.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's Atlantic City, New Jersey. I know there's a huge stereotype moving to New Jersey from New York, but it's a lot more affordable over there.
Yep. That's a good point.
And you can still see your friends.
Yeah.
If you really want to get out of that area, Myrtle Beach is a really nice place to end up if you want to be on the coast.
You know, one place that's really overlooked is the Chesapeake Bay area, Delaware or whatever. And you were reading this, Sophia, I was just thinking, why not go full, almost out of a sort of a book or something like that. Go down to like Daphne Fairhope, Alabama. It's a beach community. It's pretty cool. What you're doing is going completely different from New York City, just to try something totally different out. And I know what you mean about New York City. I was born in Brooklyn, spent time there, not as an adult, but it is an assaultive of environment. You are involved in combat every day that you are in a large city, LA, New York City, I don't know, maybe San Francisco, Chicago. There is so much going on that you have to be aware and you have to just protect your space. And, I'm not talking physically, but just sort of like saying, don't do that. Get away from me. I'm coming through. Give me that. Whatever. It is a grind. It's a grind. So I totally hear what you're saying.
Um, yeah, you've been okay. You've been there a decade, and you're a therapist, and you have a bunch of friends. But you plan to go to private practice. So I'm not a business coach either, but you have a decade's worth of friends, and I'm a sentimental person, and so friends are really important to me. It would be hard for me to leave a decade's worth of friends behind. And you haven't gone to private practice yet. You're having where money's an issue right now. What I would do is try and go to trying to make your switch to private practice and then see if you can make the money thing work, because you're going to make a lot more money from private practice. So if you haven't done that yet and seen if you can make the money work that way, that's what I would try and do. And also try and move, like you said, Al, try and move outside of where you are. So move out of Manhattan, or move out of NYC and move to private practice. Do that. Do both those moves, and then you can try and keep your friend group. Because I'm a loyal MF. I'm a loyal mother effer. So I hate leaving my friends behind. So that's what I would do. I would try and go private practice and move outside of the really expensive part, so I could keep my friends basically before I moved
Check
all
out
the way.
Staten Island. That's a gritty
Yeah,
area.
Staten Island. But yeah, yeah. So that's what I
or
would do
or
before abandoning my friends, basically. So
or New Jersey, Hoboken,
yeah,
somewhere
New
like that.
Jersey, something like that. Yeah. Because
I will.
if you're working for someone else, if you're paying someone else right now before you go private practice, you're leaving a lot of money on the table, basically.
That's a really good point, Bertrand. Good one.
Yeah, I think so too. I really like the diversity of answers here. So this person can like get, like a really, full idea of the various options that they have, because they really do have a lot of options, whether it's staying or maybe moving but still staying close, or just like straight up just moving away completely. One thing I wanted to mention was that they said that they don't want to be on Staten Island. I did see that in the comments later.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, I thought so too. But yeah, I think these are a lot of really good options for them, because I think it's important to, like, in addition to like thinking about, if you're moving, it's really important to know what your resources really are before you move. So I think you're totally right on making that move to private practice first while you're in a comfortable place, and then being, thinking like, okay, now what can I do from here?
Yeah. And I'll just say I'm kind of in this similar situation as you, as far as I was in LA for 13 years, and I understand the feeling of being in a huge city and just doing the whole. I worked in Hollywood, Beverly Hills entertainment. I worked at the biggest talent agency in the world, WME. So I loved it for a long time, and then I just was totally over it. So I understand that feeling of being over something, but after that, you can feel like you've done it and then move to a smaller place, maybe outside of LA or something like that, and feel comfortable leaving that behind to a large extent, but still being connected to it. So anyway, I get you.
Yeah,
I feel you. I see you.
That's really good. And
Yeah,
I was curious, to Bertrand, what made you decide coming back to Portland specifically? Were you like wanting to be near family, or was it, you said that you're like really sentimental and loyal, so.
Yeah. When growing up in in Portland, even as a kid, I knew that I would come back to Portland one day to live here because it's such a perfect place to be. I love it. I love how the area allows you to be exactly who you are. It's so encouraging, and I just love it here. So I always knew I would come back. But like one of my favorite quotes is by T.S. Eliot. He said, "At the end of all of our exploring, we'll come back home and we'll know the place for the first time." So I knew that I wanted, because this place is so special to me, I wanted to explore the world and go out and see the world and then come back and be home and really have it be special for me because I had been out and explored so much. So that's what I did. I explored the world and then I came back here home and now I can be here. So I knew I would come back, but I just wanted to go out and do a bunch of stuff first. So
Thank you.
Yeah.
and I wanted to be with Bert and run Best Places too.
And we are.
You know, I worked in LA, you know, telecommuting for a couple of years, but there's only so much you can do, as we learned from COVID. Like doing these Zoom meetings and stuff like that is really way better than a phone call, but it's not the same as being in person.
Yeah. I saw in the comments the person didn't like the vibe in Staten Island, not what she was looking for. Hudson River Valley, I think if you want to stay in the New York area, you can go up there. In fact, a lot of people moved up there for COVID. Now they're sort of drifting back to the city. So there might be some really nice places available, but yeah, it's not quite as hot as it was, you know, as far as popularity a couple of years ago, which might be a good thing. But definitely look up the Hudson River Valley. It's pretty nice.
Well, thank you so much for the questions and the answers. This was really fun hearing like everyone's different responses and their thoughts on these. I really like the you know, different types of responses. Like especially for that last one, so that this person can really have a full outlook on and make a good decision for themselves. So awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, let us know how it turns out and if you get to keep your friend group or not. I hope you do.
Yeah.
Whatever happens.
Yeah, I want follow up.
Yeah, definitely. Let us know how it goes.